Hey, campers. It's time for another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
And this week we have an interview with a friend of the show, Miles Gunter, who is here to talk about the first volume of Dark Fang, which he does with the artist Kelsey Shannon, out in comic book stores everywhere on Wednesday, May 9th. And on Comixology if you're more digitally inclined. But, let's let Miles do the talking. Coming back on the show, we have Miles Gunter. His Image Comics series, Dark Fang, gets its first volume collected on Wednesday, May 9th. He does it with Kelsey Shannon on art, Taylor Esposito, apologies, Taylor, on letters. Miles, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me back. It's good to be back.
So, the big thing, across reading these first 5 issues of Dark Fang, that'll again be in that first volume, even though there's a socially conscious message, there's like kind of this she's Vala is very much kind of in the vein of early Vertigo, like Swamp Thing and Animal Man with this like ecological message. It's a really fucking fun book. Like, it's not like too heavy. Was that always kind of something like, even though, climate change was kind of on the mind, it's like, you know what, let's still have some fun with this?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I think that's just really my sensibility. That's what I strive to do, is just have fun, to just make comics fun and just to be playful with the subject matter. So I guess that's just tends to be like my default.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to just kind of invoke the feeling that I would get, as an audience of, growing up watching things like John Carpenter and, just where you have that kind of tone of just playfulness, but there's still, you still have stakes, you still have tension. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I wasn't really interested in, doing a sermon, or because it would just be so easy to just take the premise and just be like really deadly serious about it and just have all this oration and all this, just kind of talk,
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that at all. Sometimes I see stuff like that and it's just so boring. And so, yeah, it's definitely deliberate, and it's definitely going to, that tone will definitely continue, throughout the rest of the series.
Well, there's definitely kind of been like an escalation too, but now that you're mentioning it, I'm trying to think like one of the most funny Star Trek movies is totally like Star Trek 4, but that's also
Yeah.
like one of the most like socially conscious Star Trek movies too, but they don't beat you over the head with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really, I think it's just really a testament to Nicholas Meyer's talent that he's able to pull off that tone. But even Wrath of Khan, I think there's a certain playfulness as well, despite it also being, incredibly harrowing and dramatic.
Yeah.
But he just, yeah, guys like that, they just have, this incredible toolbox, and they know how to walk that line and just keep it really playful and keep it fun. You're making me want to go watch Voyage Home. No, I haven't seen it in so long.
It's like it's a good time. Every time I find myself in my as I get deeper into my 30s, I tend to like the more like you invoked John Carpenter earlier. My favorite John Carpenter movie, and this might be blasphemy in some circles, is Big Trouble in Little China, and it's like
Sure.
it's the funniest thing he's ever done. Also,
Oh yeah.
came out the same year as Voyage Home, '86. But everyone, even you look at fucking the first Halloween movie. Mike Myers, there's like a dark sense of humor when he puts like the glasses on over like the ghost sheet and everything. Like only that's something that's left out of the latter Halloween movies. That there's kind of this like weird sense
Oh
of
yeah,
humor to it.
it's absolutely. I mean, just those movies are just complete hack work, and unfortunately, so many. Not to get too sidetracked on like 80s horror stuff, but yeah,
We can do that later. Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, it's just sad when you establish a tone, and then you just, as a fan, you're so excited for a return to that, and it's just like awful, but you just keep, you stomach it anyway. You just watch it, like you're just hopeful that there's going to be like something good. So I'm really cautiously optimistic about this new Halloween for that reason, because I kind of get the sense that they're very mindful of that, of the tone, of the original film, and being able to mirror that, I suppose,
Before we,
update it,
yeah,
but keeping the aesthetics, which none of the other movies really did,
but before we seg back into Dark Fang for a second, just as an aside, were you a fan of the two Rob Zombie Halloween films?
No, not at all.
Just kind of
Not at
like
all.
what?
Yeah, I just, I think that sometimes, less is more, and when you try to go in and give, Michael Myers like this backstory where you empathize with him, it just takes away from the mystique. It's like the way that they tore open the golden goose that is Boba Fett in Empire Strikes Back. I mean, Boba Fett is this incredibly mysterious character. So in the prequels, let's show him as a little kid and blah blah, all this crap, and it's just like, who cares? I didn't really. I mean, I saw it when it came out, and I remember like almost nothing about Rob Zombie's Halloween. And one thing that really pissed me off about that movie, one thing that's kind of stuck with me over the years, is that he had like a double dream scene where it's like, something fucked up is going on, and then, oh, she wakes up, it's a dream, and oh, she wakes up again. Like, I just think that's so cheap. Like, you can only just do that like once. The dream thing only works. I think maybe the only exception is American Werewolf in London, but it's just so hacked. It's just such a hack intention. So no, I'm not at all a fan of those movies. I understand why they did well when they came out, because I think there was a hunger for, for good slasher stuff, but and that's what got done. But I've seen Halloween probably more. It's definitely one of the movies that I've watched probably the most. Like, I can't even, I don't know, like hundreds of times maybe. I don't know. Like my whole life, ever since I was a little kid, I've watched Halloween.
Oh yeah.
So I'll continue to. I'll be, on some fucking oxygen tank, watching it. So
I mean, it defines the entire genre. So you had mentioned kind of
absolutely.
what Michael Myers kind of means to you, kind of like evil personified, no backstory. What exactly does Vala, the protagonist of Dark Fang, kind of mean to you on an abstract level?
I don't know. Ask me at the end of the series. I mean, with her, I didn't really think it was because, with Dark Fang, it's all her point of view. So I feel like there's a certain amount of work that has to be done as far as fleshing out a character. I mean, if the story was being told from the point of view of law enforcement or government people, or other agents dealing with the situation of what she's doing, then maybe she could have taken on more of this elemental force. But that just I wasn't really interested in doing that. I wanted to dig into her character and just have fun, But as far as what she means, I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me. I'm so close to it that it's hard for me to sometimes even, I don't know. It's like she's like this, I guess it's kind of like the cliche of just, like Robert E. Howard talks about how Conan is, standing over his shoulder, while he's writing. And with her, it just feels like she's like a living thing, so I'm just kind of like, getting out of the way and just letting her call the shots, like I recently, I'm working on the book. I'd gone and written the whole second arc, and I'd gone back and rewritten it. And I had a plan for what to do after that. And like about a month ago, like I just completely like threw that out the out the window, and to do something that's much more hot button and much more, you could possibly get me like assassinated by like the FSB. So, but it's just like, that's just like the best. That's like what's best for Vala.
Well, I mean
I have to do what's best for her character.
Yeah, I feel like that's always kind of been in the series like DNA. It has to be topical. It has to be relevant to the now. It just doesn't have to be like morose about it.
Yeah, well, where's the fun in that? I mean, who wants to read that? I mean, real life is morose enough. I mean, especially right now with everything that's going on in our country. But I mean, the second art, I'm assuming that people listening to this, I don't know, I'm not sure if I should talk about spoilers
You
or,
can at least say that
you
like
know,
what issue 6 has been solicited. Like she
well, I
is.
mean, yeah, basically, the first arc ends with her on the moon. So the second arc is going to be a big departure. Um, in a lot of ways, it's going to be almost more of like a real time action story of her just trying to survive on the moon. And it's almost kind of like, because at the end of the arc, she goes up against these really impossible odds. So the second arc is going to be it's sort of like when you're in a video game and you have to spend a lot of time. You kind of get to a point in the game, like about 2/3 in, where you have to kind of grind your character up, before you can, go into the next part, into the next area, because you have to have like better equipment and better weapons. So the second arc is going to be kind of like Vala grinding herself up and becoming more powerful out of necessity. So because it all takes place on the moon. I mean, there will be things happening on the surface, but most of the action is going to be with her on the moon, and yeah, it's going to be very different.
Please tell me the subtitle for Volume 2 is Dark Side of the Moon.
No, sorry.
Damn. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Just
No, it's called Moon Fight, because that's basically what it is. There's a lot of fighting, and so and that kind of made me feel like I had kind of like a 80s like Nintendo side scroller quality.
mhm.
So um, there's definitely going to be a lot more action than in the first volume. And
Well,
then after that, it'll be something totally different after that. So I really want to keep. Kelsey and I talk a lot about how we just want to constantly change the book, and um, you know, partially just as an excuse to put her in different outfits, because it's kind of like it's like we're like really into just getting into her like clothing and her costumes and just creating a lot of different looks. So she's gonna have like this spacesuit through most of the second arc. So yeah.
the is the biggest challenge for you creatively coming up with like escalating the action coming up, because I mean, you mentioned her getting more powerful in the second arc. She was already a pretty, she's like a juggernaut badass level in arc 1. Is it always kind of creatively coming up with stuff that would challenge her, that creates that sense of
Yeah, I
danger?
mean, initially, when I was first developing the book, it was when it started out, I was just like, Vala was, I was trying to establish her parameters. I mean, it was just almost like, well, okay, she's just going up against all these like normal people. It's going to be like she's in God mode. Like, so there has to be tension. You can't really sustain a story where she's just going around and just murdering everybody in like, funny, creative ways. And after a while, it's just going to get stale. So the challenge was to come up with adversaries that were as strong, if not stronger, than her. And so that just let and then kind of it's so in a way Vala has to kind of like adapt her tactics, and change, and the forces that she's going up against will also have to do the same. But by the end of the second arc, I mean, it's gonna be totally different. So without really getting into any kind of details. But it's going to be totally fucking crazy. So
Nice. Yeah, and I mean that's something I remember, working these image shows or talking to like people on the fly and just being like, "Well, what's this book about?" And just be like, "Well, so there's this book called Dark Fang where like this female vampire comes out of the abyss and sets up like solar panels on Dracula's castle and takes the fight to the fossil fuel arc." And as soon as those words kind of leave my mouth, you just see somebody like, "I've just drafted a new enlistee into the Fang Girl army,"
wow. I'm glad to hear it, man. Yeah, we recently had a really nice write up in the magazine for the Sierra Club, and one of the things that they kind of gushed about was the solar panels on Dracula's castle. So yeah, I was pretty happy about that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, how has the reaction kind of been on the ground, dealing with the Fangirl army? And I know, we're fresh off C2E2, and I'm so bummed I wasn't able to meet you up there because I was.
Oh, that's cool. There'll be future shows, man. I mean, the reaction for the most part has been great. I mean, it's been very enthusiastic. I mean, everybody that, that has reached out to me is just, had a lot of love for what we're doing. I mean, there's been like, I don't know, there was like one guy who wrote me and he's like, "This is going to fail. This is terrible," all this stuff. So I'm definitely putting him in the letters column in the next issue. So, and, occasionally there's just, the haters got to hate, man. Like I think there's one girl who has like written like horrible reviews for like every issue, but she keeps coming back and like writing about the book. So
there was a John.
I mean, that's fine with me, as long as you're buying it. But yeah, I would say like 98% of it has been really positive. So
John Lennon's old axiom.
Yeah, I'm definitely very grateful for that. And now that the trade is out, I'm hoping that a lot more people will get turned on to what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because I know it's more of a trade culture in comics, but a lot more people are reading trades than issues.
I've been noticing that, like, we've, had a lot of, I mean, we do this every fucking week, but like everybody's kind of like, you're basically writing for volume 1. You're basically like, that's what you're building to, and then everything kind of goes based on trade sales from there. So it's a weird kind of time for the industry, but I'm trying to remember the old John Lennon statement, like back when, the Beatles are bigger than Jesus quote, and people across probably the same parts of the country that badmouth Dark Fang online were just like they were burning Beatles records, and he just kind of shrugged and was like, they got to buy them to burn them.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah.
So
yeah, I just, I don't, it really, for the most part, it's just, it's like whatever. I don't really mind. I mean, for the most part, people are really into what we're doing. So,
what would you say? I mean, even though this follows a vampire and it's got the quite a few of the horror tropes. I remember you describing this last time you were on as basically it's a superhero book. She just happens to be.
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, the first arc is kind of like a superhero book. The second arc is going to be a little more of like a sci-fi thing, like a sci-fi martial arts kind of thing. Like Outland with like Bruce Lee instead of Sean Connery.
Damn.
Actually, it's not really like that. It just sounds cool. But there's definitely going to be like a lot of like fighting and stuff. Yeah, and then the next arc will be something totally different from that. But yeah, there's definitely. I mean, thematically, there's some similarities to superhero stuff, but I think that and there's definitely going to be some like some space opera stuff. I mean, Kelsey and I are both big fans of Leiji Matsumoto, and he's definitely like a big influence on the look of Vala. And I don't want to say we're ripping him off, but there's definitely going to be some stuff in the future that's very rooted in his work, and things like Queen Emeraldas and Galaxy Express 999 and Captain Harlock.
I think the old Tarantino quote is, "It's not ripping off, it's homage."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think it's, you just have to be like, take an element and then steal something, but then combine it with something else, so it's not completely obvious. But her condition will also change. One of the things about Vala is that as she grows more powerful and more resourceful, she's going to be deteriorating more. So it's kind of this double-edged sword. There's kind of this ticking clock element with her and her condition. So that's another element of complication and tension on top of everything else that's going on.
She's burning herself out in a way.
Yeah, right.
So I think that the big thing we've kind of been dancing around, just talking like Carpenter or Halloween, but also, I mean, you had mentioned that you had the idea of working with vampires or just the DNA of Dark Fang for over a decade before it finally took shape. But what is it? I think the big thing we've been dancing around is what is it about horror tropes or just the genre in general that's always kind of attracted you as both a fan and a storyteller?
I think it's just something that like you, I think I've just always been attracted to since childhood. I have like a lot of really powerful cinematic experiences as a kid that are rooted in things like watching Alien on HBO or watching the Salem's Lot TV miniseries or watching The Lost Boys. And I think it's just this desire to kind of go back and to kind of recreate that feeling for someone else, so that tradition can kind of continue where there's that, you're just sort of providing that feeling for the people that come after you, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like almost pay it forward from a creative
standpoint. I suppose. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know. There's just something about, horror it's in some ways, it's been such a maligned genre for most of my life. It's never really been taken seriously. And it really only feels like in recent years that it's really started to blossom, and especially just in the last year with Get Out really being taken seriously on a level that I don't think we've really seen before. And also with, Shape of Water. I mean, it's really kind of amazing just in the last year to see these prestige horror picks, doing great business, and also, they're really good. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, I've been a very, I don't know, as far like, I like some of Del Toro's stuff, and other stuff I just don't really like at all. But I thought Shape of Water was like so well rounded. Like it was so much more refined than his stuff tends to be,
I remember the last time you were on, you had just seen Mother, Aronofsky's Mother, which
yeah, right,
which was also kind of about climate change in a way, and
sure, yeah, absolutely.
I do have to ask, in the interim, have you seen A Quiet Place?
Yes, I did. I loved it. I've actually wanted to go back and see it again. It's rare. Like, occasionally, I'll see a movie in the theater, and I like immediately, like after the movie's over, I'll be like, I'm buying that on Blu-ray. Like it doesn't happen very often, but like, yeah, I loved it, man. It was so well done. Yeah. I mean, I'm like a major like sound design nerd, mm-hmm. And just when people use sound well in movies, I just like, I love it, and I just thought it was so well done on so many levels. I mean, I thought it was just such, it's the first thing he's ever directed too, right?
Kristen,
did he do some TV?
I feel like he did some like indie. I don't want to call it like rom-coms, but they were basically like those kind of like, like guy meets, kind of like Garden State-esque kind of stories.
Okay. People like sitting in diners talking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was great. I mean, I was just actually thinking about it the other day, and I was like, that shotgun cock at the end, that may be the coolest shotgun cock ever. Like, I was just trying to think of another one that was as good as that. Like, as just a sting on a scene. I was like, I can't really. I mean, there's the Monster Squad, but that doesn't really, even that I don't think is as good as Emily Blunt. So, and I'm a big fan of hers, and it's really nice to see her in something that's so good. I was a little disappointed in Sicario, so I thought that it kind of
Well,
squandered her in some ways.
yeah, because she gets punked the entire movie.
Yeah, right. I don't want to see Emily Blunt get punked. I want to see her kick ass and like be cool.
Yeah.
So,
For,
like in the Tom Cruise movie.
Oh, Edge of Tomorrow, released on home video as Live, Die, Repeat, or
Right.
something like that.
Right. Yeah. Well, it was originally called All You Need Is Kill.
The Korean manga, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very strange development story on that one. It was a spec and it sold for like $3 million or something. It was like this huge. It was this huge thing, and then the guy who wrote it, Dante Harper, I think that's his name. He wasn't even listed on the screenwriting credits on when it came out. So
Where's the
he still got
WGA
paid,
rules?
but it's just crazy
Yeah, yeah.
that process.
So, for our listeners at home that aren't in the know, you actually come from a filmmaking background, speaking all around this, about film and that sort of thing. But what is it about, like, shifting gears and writing for comics? I mean, Dark Fang is by no means the first comic you've done. You've done, Zombie and that sort of thing. And
Right.
you've worked with, Kelsey on other stuff. But, yeah, what is it about writing for this medium, and what appeals to you about writing for comics and creating for comics?
Having complete control and being able to do whatever the hell we want, and not having to tone it down or make it less weird. And, I had spent a number of years pursuing screenwriting, and I actually did this. I had written this project for an action film that dealt with similar themes as Fang, but it was more like a Luc Besson like beat 'em up movie. And I'd gotten this actor involved, this guy. It's been so long now. I suppose I could talk about it. This guy Tyrese Gibson, who's in Fast and Furious and Transformers and all this stuff. And I developed this project with him and his production company, and we were working on it with like Rennie Harlan, and we worked on it with another director, and it just kept like falling apart. Like at the last minute, like we would, go and set meetings with studios and stuff, and it would just like fizzle out. I kept getting like left at the altar, but it dealt with a lot of the same themes. But even that, I would have to like, with that project, I mean, there was definitely, I was being very mindful of commercial considerations, and, slowly that was kind of like making me think more like that, and with my writing to be more, mindful of commercial, of like producer considerations and stuff like that. And with comics, I kind of reached a point with all that where I just said, what, fuck this. I'm going to go back and I'm going to do something that I can only do as a comic. And Kelsey and I did this project, which is actually finished but hasn't come out. That's a dinosaur comic, and it's just like completely fucking crazy. And I mean, it's just like totally unfilmable. Like it would never fucking get made as a movie. And we finished that as a one shot, and hopefully we're eventually going to put it out. And we started talking about doing something else, and Dark Fang just seemed to be the thing that really, stuck out of my mind, because all this time that I've been working on this thing with Tyrese, I'm so freaked out about climate change. It's just like, why isn't anybody making any movie? Why aren't people making movies about this? This is such serious shit. It's only going to get worse, blah, 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 And, so over time, that none of that, I hadn't lost any of that, fire for doing something like that. It only intensified. So when it came time for this, it was just kind of like, Fang was almost kind of like an unloading, and doing just kind of really going for the jugular, no pun intended, and just doing something that was just a lot more intense, and not really worrying about approval as much.
I feel like the first couple issues of Fang, especially, there's like that kind of catharsis where like these people have been fucking with the planet, fuck these
Right.
people, and then
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and then towards the end of the arc, you're like, but now here's the other side. Like here's where the music stops, and you got to like pay the piper a bit.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's again, it just, going forward, it just, the book is gonna be a little more of a chess game, and Vala's gonna, change her tactics, and the forces that are behind the fossil fuel industry are also going to be changing their tactics. And Vala is actually going to find out that in the next arc that her actions have kind of had these unintended consequences that have actually made it easier for the fossil fuel industries to do what they do. So it's not, it's almost going to become even like more difficult over time for her to do what she's doing. So she's going to have to figure out some different tactics. So she can't just keep like murdering people, but there will be more killing for sure.
But this is basically your Empire Strikes Back. Like the fossil fuel industry basically regroups and strikes back as hard as it can.
I don't know if I would say that. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, she definitely gets she gets pushed in ways. She gets pushed a lot more than she did in the first volume, and there's definitely it's a lot. We're a lot rougher on her in some ways, but yeah, I don't know if I would say Empire Strikes Back. There's definitely going to be. It doesn't really have the time to really develop into something like that. But it's just a different. It's just going to be a very different kind of animal, and it's a chance for Kelsey to do a lot of different things visually, and he's actually working a different kind of way on this arc. The entire first arc was digital, and with the new pages he's doing, he's been actually doing pencils and going in and doing finishes digital. So it's I'll send you a couple of the pages, and it's got a very different kind of look to it. So it's really cool. He had wanted to to make art changes with a new volume, and with anything beyond that as well, to kind of like mix it up and just try different things, and
Yeah, last time you were on, I think I didn't ask what your all's collaborative process was like. I think the only thing we kind of talked about in terms of you and Kelsey is that you guys had a gentleman's disagreement regarding Alien Covenant.
Yeah, we did. I mean, it's fine. We don't really talk. We don't really, it's water under the bridge. But yeah, it's we usually the way it works is we just we talk about it, and we just I pitch him with what I'm doing. We just we start with that, and we kind of want to have everything figured out to start.
So it's not like Marvel style. You're still going full script, but you both have a general idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's totally. I mean, it's definitely like very. Yeah, it's definitely full script.
Yeah.
So we get. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty. It's pretty detailed for the most part visually. So I try to give him a lot of. A lot of ideas just on like design, and I mean, there's definitely a lot of elements.
Sure.
That's just he's very he's just a really visual guy, so I really just try to get his juices flowing with just all the visual elements, and also just the visual pacing too. Yeah. So just planning everything out.
With the second arc, I mean, without going into detail on the first, you've kind of like Vala has gotten knocked, like you were saying, you kind of knocked her around a bit towards the end. Are you going to kind of like, and you mentioned that she would get stronger herself in issue 2, if anything, or arc 2 out of sheer necessity. Are we going to kind of see a new supporting cast kind of take shape?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the second arc, I mean, we're gonna introduce some new characters that are going to be important in the long run. And yeah, I mean, that's going to be a really important part of it, because she's really, she spent a lot of her time in isolation, on the bottom of the ocean. So I really want to expose her to some more of her human side. I want that part of moving forward is having Vala learn a little more about the human part of herself.
So if I had to venture a guess, in addition to escalation, Arc 2 is also kind of one of the underlying themes is vulnerability.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's definitely, it's hard to, I kind of want to dance around it a little bit, but yeah, she's definitely going to get pushed to the limit.
Mm-hmm.
So not to quote Scarface, the musical interlude in Scarface, but
I mean, any good '80s movie from that period has a montage, right? Rocky
Right.
4 has like 2. Karate Kid's got
yeah,
at least 2. At least
right.
yeah. Nobody brings up Karate Kid Part 2. And that's like my fucking favorite because like he's fighting to the death and they have like
Yeah.
the drum fight and like it's like the most epic one and
It's
nobody
intense.
yeah.
It's really intense. God, I haven't seen that in years. It's making me want to go back and watch that now.
Yeah. Well, every time you and I talk, Miles, there's always like a short list of films we each have to like revisit, and they're usually
Sure.
from the
Yeah.
80s.
Well, I was going to ask you, have you checked out The Ritual?
No, is it?
God, are you serious?
I know,
Oh, man, I
man.
really wanted to talk about that. It's this Netflix movie. Netflix has been doing these original movies,
Mhm.
and
The Ritual. Let me.
yeah, The Ritual. It's oh man,
Speaking of 80s stuff, did you end up checking out Ready Player One?
yeah, I did. I saw it. It's just a bunch of CGI, man. Uh, dude. I had to after I saw it. I had to go like lie. I had like a headache. I had to go like lie down. Like it was just too much CG, man.
Yeah,
I
sensory overload.
when I see a bunch of graphics running towards each other, I just completely so not interested in that at all. Like it's so boring. Like it just looks like a video game cut screen. I just completely check out. I'm so not in, I'll go see the new Avengers, but it's like I just look at Thanos and I just see like, steroid grimace. Like I'm just like fuck it, like who gives a shit? It just doesn't. I'm just not into it at all.
He looks
So,
he looks like a really ripped California raisin.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like I just don't get it, man. So the CG it just drives me crazy. I don't mind CG with practical, and I think what it boils down to is when you have like humanoid CG characters. I think if it's like inhuman CG, it doesn't bother me as much. But oh man, I'm pretty cranky about that stuff. I'm not into that at all.
Oh, so
Like the Ritual has got this great creature and this incredible monster design, and it looks like it's CG, but there's also some practical elements too. So
yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
you gotta check out The Ritual, man. It's really good. I've watched it like 3 times. I watched it again last night. It's so good.
It's the same guy that did The Signal, right?
Yeah, I've actually never seen The Signal, but it's adapted from this book. And the thing that I really like about it is that it's a horror movie. It's a monster movie, but it's about something. Like it actually has like an emotional core.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like I mean, it's the kind of like it's the situation that we've seen a million times. It's a bunch of guys that go out in the woods and some fucked up shit happens, but there's something else going. It's operating on another dimension,
Well,
beyond just the physical events of the story, and that's really the thing that's so strong about it. And it's also just really well made. It's got great tension, great performances, great great production design. The creature is fantastic. I mean, it's just a really high quality affair. I mean, Netflix has been really they've really missed the mark a few times with some of these some of these movies. At least in my opinion, some of the things that they put out, like this Cloverfield movie and the Duncan Jones movie. I mean, I thought that those were both pretty pretty problematic. But I thought the Ritual was just, more like that.
Well, you
Just
you
really just good stuff. I mean, I think you're definitely in for a treat. I'm kind of envious that you'll be able to see it.
with fresh eyes, yeah. Okay, so
Fresh eyes.
so you had mentioned kind of a trope that we had seen before: dudes going in the woods, very well made monster. Did you end up seeing Annihilation?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I really enjoyed Annihilation. I was sorry that it wasn't better received, but it's a pretty weird movie, and it's not really a crowd pleaser. So, but yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I really like that. From the get-go, he sets up that, okay, we're gonna do this kind of movie, and it's gonna be all women, but he's not gonna hold back, because it's all women. It's not gonna be easier on them. I mean, the whole thing with the bear, I mean, it was great.
Yeah.
Just really, really well done. I really, it was really cool to me that Alex Garland is clearly a fan of Peter Hyams' The Relic. So I was definitely getting a hardcore Relic vibe off of that creature. So it was definitely really cool. Just the way he was shooting it and the way he was presenting it. I mean, it was really cool.
Well, and I've just been a fan of Garland's, Dread, which apparently
Yeah.
he ghost directed, and Ex Machina, of course.
Yeah, I love him. He's fantastic. I mean, I really, again, the sound design was, I'm like at the end. I mean, it was just, I just had to kind of like take a moment there when I was watching it in the theater. I was like, holy shit, this is so fucking loud right now. Like it was like rock concert loud at the climax. It's like, oh, this is awesome. Like, why don't more people, push, push it like this where it makes you uncomfortable? But I think maybe that's the thing about the movie, is that it is kind of designed to make you uncomfortable. And that doesn't necessarily always translate to, a successful film. I mean, it's kind of like John Carpenter's The Thing, and when it came out, it was just, it was a total flop, because it was a very uncomfortable experience. So, but I think that Annihilation, it's a great movie, and it seems like people, for the most part, they really enjoyed it. So I heard that in Europe, they just played it on Netflix. Like it wasn't in the theaters.
Damn. I know.
People were like really pissed off in Europe that they couldn't see it in the theater. But
for
it's
me,
pretty weird.
like the movie that I was so bummed that wasn't better received that's come out recently, I really dug. My favorite movie of last year was Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because the movie was 3 fucking hours. I don't know if it's because it was like a sequel to a over 30-year-old film. I guess.
Right.
But that was the one. I mean, you talk about sound design and everything in that. I mean.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, all the money was up on the screen, and in a way it's kind of appropriate though, because it's appropriate that it would be misunderstood, and that it would be soft, and that it would underperform, because that's exactly what Blade Runner did, So it's kind of, I don't know what they were thinking, if they thought that it was going to be like Harry Potter or something, but I thought it was great. Yeah, I mean,
well, same thing happened to Tron Legacy, where Disney was like, "Here's a new Tron," like 35 years later, and it's like, oh, but nobody.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all right, but
I mean, it looks great, and it's definitely the kind of, if I was like, it's the kind of movie when I was younger that I would just put on and I would play music on top of it, like I would just have like the visuals going,
yeah, it's beautiful,
like at a party or something.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's great to look at.
So, Miles, if you may, as you may recall, and I guess we've kind of like covered a fair bit, but I am obliged to ask, what are you currently geeking out over?
Well, as I already said, The Ritual is one of my favorite things that I've seen so far this year. I've also really been geeking out over Assault on Precinct 13. I watched it again last week, because I'm kind of studying it for this other project that I'm developing, and I hadn't watched it. I think I watched it a few years ago, and I was just really struck by just it just has like this poignancy that like I don't know. It's really different from a lot of his other movies. Like it has kind of like this, this like with the interplay with the actors. There's kind of like this fatalism, but there's kind of like this heart, that like it's like this weird like balance of like fatalism and heart,
Hmm.
especially with with Napoleon Wilson and the actress whose name I can't remember. Like, there's just watching their scenes together, and like, it's just he really just tapped into something, and it's a very soulful film in a lot of ways. Like, despite being this kind of like, I mean, it's really antiquated in a lot of ways.
Well, I mean, he was
It's very
inspired
of
by
this time.
what, Rio Bravo when he was making it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's certainly not as sophisticated as anything, as what's being done now, but that's just kind of like part of its charm, and just and so much of it is enhanced by his score, and it really just lends more of a, it just really makes you feel the situation more. It's just really one of the great things about his work as a composer, the way that it just like he's able to emotionally inform his scenes. I mean, he also does a lot of that in They Live. Like, there's a lot of that same kind of feeling in some scenes in there. When it's very much it's much more in the quiet scenes,
Yeah.
with the characters, and it's just yeah, it's really poignant to me. I'm trying to think about what else. Well, I saw the Quiet Place. I really liked Unsane. Did you see that?
No, dude, I gotta be honest. I've fallen so far behind on things I need to watch.
Well, it's pretty fun. I think you'll enjoy it. I mean, it's kind of raw, I mean, he shot it on an iPhone, and
Mhm.
it has, but it's really cool. I mean, it's a really cool story. He really, it's the whole somebody getting committed and they're not really crazy, but he adds like a new wrinkle to it that really separates it from stuff like Shutter Island, or The Ward, or some of the other movies that I can't think of that deal with those themes. But trying to think about what else I've been watching. I've watched a few episodes of Hard Sun on Hulu, and that's pretty cool. It's done by Neil Cross, who does Luther, which I love. I
Oh
went
yeah.
back and I rewatched Luther again recently, and it's so well done, because I've been developing kind of this law enforcement project, so I've kind of been watching some stuff like that and just kind of like studying the structure and how they put it together and everything.
Hmm.
And Hard Sun is this. It's a show on Hulu, and it's about these cops in London who find out about this. Basically, there's this doomsday event that's going to happen where the sun is going to destroy the earth in 5 years, and there's this conspiracy to keep this information from the population so that it won't incite panic. So basically, once this so with this knowledge, all these people are losing their shit, and they're like doing crazy shit, and so these cops are having to deal with it. And it's really, I've only seen a few episodes of it, but it's really good. It's funny because I had read a book a year or two ago called The Last Policeman, which dealt with a very similar idea about a cop, uh, doing their job in this, this environment where there's this doomsday event that's going to happen in the near future. And I thought it was actually, when I first saw Hard Sun, I thought it was the same thing. I was like, oh, this is that thing that I read, but it's actually like just a slight variation on it, which is kind of weird. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm trying to think of what else what else I've checked out recently. I recently got the Dawn of the Dead soundtrack on vinyl. I've been geeking out on that.
Mm.
So they this label Waxwork Records, they do a lot of re-releases of old horror soundtracks, and they put that out a couple months ago. So I've been digging that, and some of their other soundtracks have been in heavy rotation in my office. Like they've put out several Pino Adagio soundtracks. He did like Don't Look Now and The Howling and Tourist Trap. So I've been listening to those a lot while I'm working. It's just like full orchestra. It's fantastic.
With Dawn of the Dead, was that the one they printed on like blood red vinyl?
I can't. I think it's green.
Okay.
I think it's kind of like it's got like a couple of different colors. But no, I don't believe it's blood red.
The one of my
Unless maybe there's a variant that is the one that I got isn't like that.
one of my buddies, Jake Simon, he does Number One with a Bullet for Image, and yeah, he's all about the Waxwork Records stuff.
Yeah, it's great. They do really cool stuff, and probably most recently, the thing I've been geeking out about is the new Sleep record, The Sciences.
Ah.
So, which dropped on Friday. It was a complete surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Came out, and I have kind of a special connection to them because the guitar player in that band is this guy named Matt Pike, and he's also fronts this rock band called High on Fire, which adapted one of my old. They wrote a song called Bastard Samurai about one of my old comics, Bastard Samurai. So I've kind of have this like kinship with him. So when he puts out something new, it's really cool. It's like getting a suit of lightning armor. It's really cool. It's a really cool record. I don't know if you really like that kind of stuff, but I'm kind of at the age where I don't listen to a lot of loud music anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I listened to so much of it when I was younger and I'm kind of like afraid that like if I keep listening to it, I'm gonna like fuck up my hearing, and it just doesn't appeal to me as much as it used to. But something like Sleep is definitely an exception, and it's just also very it's very mellow in a way. Like it's very loud, but it's it's like these dudes are like middle aged now, and I don't know if you're like a Sleep fan or you know anything about them or like
Well, I know
their
they
history or.
I know they just announced a tour. They're more doomy in terms of metal, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I mean, they basically they did. A lot of people, myself included, got turned on to them through the movie Gummo. They had a song in Gummo, and after that, that was their first. Well, not their first album, but their first. I guess it was their second album, Holy Mountain, which is named for the Jodorowsky movie. But after that, they did this album called Jerusalem. They got like they signed with like this record company, and they got a bunch of money, and they spent all the money on weed, and they basically recorded this hour-long song. Like one song, it's like an hour long, and like the label like wouldn't put it out. They're like, what the fuck, And so for like a while, it wasn't available, and then it was out, and they broke up after that. And in recent, like I guess in the last 10 years, they've like gotten back together, and like the climate is such that they've got like a big following now, and so they're like they're like a real band now. Like it's not just like this obscure weirdo shit like it was back in the day. So it's kind of funny how that happens. But the new record is their first record in like 20 years. Mm. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do you listen to Ghost at all?
I've listened to a little of Ghost, and I liked what I heard. I don't really know that much about them. So I was really surprised because when I heard about them and when I saw them, I was like, oh, this is like some screamo bullshit, But I was really surprised that it wasn't, like it was actually like really poppy. And if you like, you should check out the new Ulver album because it's very like if you like Ghost, I think you would really like the new Oliver record. It has like this really poppy, like electro, like I'm not even sure how to describe it, but it's really cool. It's
Yeah.
called The Assassination of Julius Caesar. Like it came out like last year. It's really good.
I tend to
I'll
like
send you a link.
I tend to like my metal a little more melodic. Like my gateway drug into metal really was like Metallica's Black Album.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Which is like their most even now, like all these years later, is their most accessible album. Then after
Sure.
that, I went back, listened to Master of Puppets, Kill 'Em All, and Just
Right.
All. But so I tend to skew a little more like I'm more less Anthrax, more Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, where you can
Right.
still track what instrument is playing what.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm at the point where I only listen to like a few. Like I don't listen to a lot of heavy stuff anymore. I mean, I'm very selective about it, and I don't really go to shows that much anymore. I used to go to shows a lot. Honestly, the last concert that I went to, I went and saw Roger Waters last year, and it was so fucking spectacular that part of me never wants to go to a live concert again because I was like, there's no fucking way that anything's ever going to top that.
That's a good way to go out. Yeah.
It was fucking unreal, dude. I don't know if you've seen any of the footage of like the shows.
Oh
but
yeah. Yeah.
it was unbelievable. I mean, just wow.
Did he play like what? Did he play Soldier Field or?
He played the United Center,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and they did two sets, and the second set they had like all these screens, all these video screens came out like a vertical, like it was like this horizontal column from the stage that went all the way across the floor, and like these columns, these smokestack columns came down from the ceiling, and then these screens came up to meet the columns, and it created this entire illusion of the factory from Pink Floyd's Animals, the cover.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like this huge fucking smokestack in the middle of the United Center, and they would project video images onto the screens. I mean, it was just like fucking. I'd never seen anything like it. I actually shot video of it. I put it up. It's like
yeah.
I put it up on YouTube. I'll send you a link. Check it out. I mean, it was just like fucking unbelievable.
I'm gonna go ahead and follow you on Instagram, man. see if I can catch some of this shit. But yeah, man. Well, as we kind of wrap up, Miles, is there anything other than you've got volume 1 of Dark Fang coming out Wednesday, May 9th. The second arc with issue 6 comes out in July.
Yeah, it will start up again in July, and yeah, so watch for it.
But yeah,
tell your retailers to pre-order. And if you like Dark Fang, if you're listening to this and you like Dark Fang, tell a friend.
Is there anything else you'd like to plug while we got you on?
Not anything I can talk about.
Fair enough.
But I'm, working on other stuff, just grinding away.
Of course.
Trying to work it. So.
Well, thanks again for coming on, man. And again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Good. I should have waited until I hit record to say it was a good interview.
It was, and you know what? I mean, it's always a good time. It was Miles. Okay, here's a little inside baseball, but you guys know because it's clearly on your iPhone or Android screen. This is episode 200.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
It was kind of a conscious decision because the last time we had episode 200, when we had episode 100, that was a big one. That was like Scotty Young, the Science Channel, and Nerdist. Like, it was this big fucking celebration that all coincided around our 100th episode. With this one, I was like, let's scale it back. Let's go the complete other way. Because, I mean, Miles, as Chris can attest, we certainly talk about the book, but it's really just, it's cool in the gang, man.
It's a hang.
Yeah, and that's what this entire thing is, just friends hanging. That's what we bring to the table. Speaking of hanging, you guys, I know Jake had a busy work. Jake's probably done the most out of any of us this time around. He's crossed state lines. He had a big work week. He shaved his beard to look kind of like, and got a haircut to look like. What does he look like, Chris? Not who. What?
Some being.
Some being.
Letting you guys behind the curtain. I didn't turn the lights on today, so I actually don't know what he looks like. I haven't actually gotten a good look at his face.
It's all the same shit. It was, just traveled, saw some family, and then had a busy work week, and finished, I guess, up to this point, every Punisher Max thing ever.
Whoa.
Which is the most important thing that happened. Because they released the complete volumes, like those like big thick volumes, you fucking thick ass volumes,
with 2 C's.
And anyway, they've done 7 of those, and so I finished on the ride home from the family meet and greet, volume 7, which is the Jason Aaron 22 issues with Steve Dillon.
Yeah, which introduces Bullseye, Kingpin, and Elektra, and basically closes out Max Punisher.
Yeah, it pretty much ends Max Punisher.
Yeah.
That's as much as I'll go into that. But the great thing is that they go all, with the timeline, they can do all different things. Obviously with Bourne, you're dealing with stuff in Vietnam. Platoon, you're doing stuff in Vietnam. And then I started reading the Fury Max, which is fucking unreal, amazing. Is that like Peacemaker, or is that
no?
This is I think it's My War Gone By or War Gone By. I can't remember which one it is. But you're dealing with at this point, Nick Fury is like sitting in a hotel room, recording his life basically, and he's like in like the 50s. Basically from the 50s, and now I'm in 1980 something. A Barracuda just showed up from Punisher Max fame. You get to see him meet Frank Castle for the first time, and that's fucking awesome because Ennis writes these characters so well, but the thing about like Frank Castle is like there's very little said with Frank Castle, and he's not consciously making jokes. Like some of this stuff's so over the top, it's like you can't help but like laugh like nervously because it's so violent and insane. But
especially when Barracuda's involved.
Yeah. But I mean, dealing with in terms of Frank Castle, he's pretty quiet, just like a one-man wrecking crew. With Nick Fury, he has just some of the best insults, and one of my favorite things early on is a guy's causing problems with a woman at a bar, and Nick Fury like rolls up to him and is like, "Back the fuck off, ballsack!" And I was like, "This is the greatest comic book of all time."
I love it in Mother Russia, where he basically just silently beats the dude with his like leather belt.
Yeah, I mean he is a nasty motherfucker, and he's awesome, and it's great because again you get to see the Jason Aaron run towards the end deals a lot with Nick Fury and Frank Castle's relationship, and then this time you get to see him meet for the first time in Vietnam, and his description of Frank Castle is just amazing.
Well, Nick is like the only, at least up until like the introduction of Bullseye, Elektra, and Kingpin, is like the only super powered, because he just doesn't, like his main universe counterpart, at least for the longest time, just doesn't age.
Yeah, I mean, well, you could see in the book I'm reading right now, there's definitely an age from like where you meet him in the 50s. And he's kind of this like really in shape kind of guy, and then in the current age when he's reading this thing, he looks like some shit. And again, I don't know exactly, how much time. I don't think they've said like if it's just present day when he's talking into this microphone, telling his life story. But it's cool because then there's 2 other Fury Max stories. Like Sam was saying, there's Peacemaker, and I can't remember the name of the other one. But
the other one's the newer one.
One of them deals with him in World War II,
right? And
then there's another one that I can't remember what it's about, but I know there's another Fury Max, which is like it's really. I love the Max universe. It's so cool. And volumes, I think 4, 5, and 6 was it, or maybe just 5 and 6 of this complete Punisher Max dealt with a lot of like one shots and everything, and those are really good too. I mean, like I know there were some huge boots to fill. Muddy, bloody combat boots to fill after Ennis left, and it keeps rolling. Like there's some really great stuff in there, and Aaron has a really fucking nuts Christmas one shot in there. And then I've been looking forward to his run, especially with Steve Dillon on art. Well, draws the entire 22 issues.
The thing about Jason Aaron is, in almost anything he writes, there is just that wicked sense of humor. Mm-hmm. I guess, Ennis has his own sense of humor too, but there's something more deranged.
Well, Aaron's was funnier, definitely.
Yeah.
And there's also like some total gut punches, man. Like I don't know if I sent you the panel, but one of my favorite moments because it was so heartbreaking is Frank's getting patched up by a combat medic that saved his life in Vietnam, and he's kind of a real dick to him at one point, and then like he gets beat up again, and the guy comes without question to help Frank. Without question. To help Frank, and at one point he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry about last time or whatever," and he's like, I can't remember how my wife sounds. Like I can't remember Maria's voice.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's like tiny little bits in there. Also, Jason Aaron totally kind of turns the Punisher origin on its head. And you get to find out the last thing he ever says to Maria. And it's fucking insane, man. Like it's pretty brutal. And like you get to realize the genius thing is the name the Punisher. Sure, he punishes people, but what I got from it is that the reason he's called the Punisher is because he's punishing himself for what he said to Maria.
It's penance.
And it's, oh man, Jason Aaron's just so freaking good.
Then why isn't it called the Penancer?
They already had penance in the Civil War.
Yeah, it's Robbie Baldwin.
Yeah. Was that Speedball or whatever?
That's the one.
But yeah, I mean, I can't sing the praises enough of the Max stuff that I've read.
Is Jason Aaron your favorite of the non-Ennis?
Yeah, but I mean, he
Punisher
also had the longest tenure by far.
It was like 12, 15 issues.
It's 22, yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And like I said, Dylan brings it as always, too, on art,
Yeah. He was born to, I mean, that and Preacher are like his two big. I mean, he's obviously he's drawn quite a bit. He's, he's worked with Mark Miller on Ultimate Avengers, but Punisher and Preacher are the two things Steve Dillon
definitely
really.
And then somebody that I'm rereading Bourne because now that Platoon's out, you get to see the total change in those 3 different combat tours.
Mm-hmm.
And then
have you warmed up more to Bourne having read Platoon and the rest of Max?
Well, again, I think, and I know the book's been out for a while, but like spoilers for Bourne because it could be interesting. It is interesting if you want to read it and not have shit spoiled for you, but I don't love the necessarily like deal with the devil thing. Like I how much he's changed and how like he's like I don't want this war to end kind of thing is super insane and wild, and it works with the Ennis run. But the interesting thing is Aaron leans so heavily. There's the arc called Frank, I believe is what it's called.
Yeah, because it was like what Frank, Kingpin, Bullseye.
Well, it's Kingpin is the first one. I can't remember. Yeah, but like that. Yeah, each of them have their own arc. And Bullseye, oh my god, man, talk about a freaking villain. He is fucking out of his mind. And he's the one who figures out what Frank said to Maria, and he whispers it to him. And it's the only time you see Frank look terrified in the entire run. And then you find out what it is later. But Jason Aaron really lays heavy into him. The return of him and him being with his family and him not fitting in whatsoever. And we've had long talks with the Sam because we always go into fucking hardcore nerd about like, was Frank
character motivation?
Was he the Punisher in Vietnam? Was he? And this, it really like a lot of the stuff we talked about.
The death of the family is just the excuse.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff we talk about is in that Aaron run. I was reading. I was like, oh my god, like
Frank Castle's the Punisher before his family dies. It just gives him the excuse. Steve Rogers is Captain America before he takes the serum.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Aaron run really focuses on that. So the Bourne stuff, yeah, reading it again, I mean, I'm not in love with like the devil, whatever you want to call it, deal he makes. But it's I for how far gone Frank has gone since his first tour, especially reading Platoon, that the miniseries, the most recent one, you see how much he's changed and how dark he's gone and how far he's fallen. Into like just this killing machine.
The day this thing posts, Jason Aaron's Avengers run starts.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that. I was telling Sam after I finished it, I was like, man, I hope he sneaks Frank in there somewhere.
The 8th seat's a rotating seat.
Yeah. I mean, even that just like he just is like there like an arc or something, you know.
And I just wrote this article on CBR, so it's been out a week now. But he in an exclusive interview, he promised that his Avengers run will bring big changes for She-Hulk.
Yes. Whoa. That's the most exciting thing, man.
Apparently, I'm just a soundboard today.
You wanted him to go first,
but yeah,
no, I was more so commenting the goofy noises that I've made so far.
That's usually me.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I'm reading the because Goran Parlov he's another guy born to draw the Punisher, and he cut his teeth big time on the Max stuff. I mean, he basically closes out the last couple arcs, and I believe he does the Barracuda miniseries as well. Does Platoon, and I'm reading he did the art for Punisher versus the Marvel Universe, where like they all become zombies basically. And he's just going fucking nuts. And you get to see Parlov draws him with the white gloves and boots, like, early on. I'm like, damn, that looks good, man. Like, that never gets old. Fuck! Yeah. So, yeah.
Impractical as hell.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, he wants...
My thing is, like, he basically, like, they could have, and this could have been explored in, like, early Punisher stuff, but my thing is, he basically could have just, like, beaten up a fucking S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, because the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents have white gloves and white boots, and he could just been like...
All he has is the shield, or the skull with the tooth ammo.
Yeah, and he'd just be like, that looks good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Honestly, I think, like, kind of like Moon Knight, he wants them to see him coming.
He's like, try me.
Yeah.
Fucking try. I'm Frank Castle. Fucking try.
Dude, imagine Christian Slater, Frank Castle.
Oh, my God.
Like, early 90s, like true romance era. He's got the slick back hair.
So not the Max run where he's super jacked.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use my Uzis to
like
shoot you in your face.
like the Max run. I could see Ed. I was. It's been a really busy day for me at work, so I was kind of like...
It's not even over yet.
I know, right? So I was kind of going in and out, so I apologize if you did mention him, but Ed McGuinness.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of my favorite Superman artists.
He's the one doing the Avengers run with Jason Aaron.
Oh, nice. But
it all comes together.
But I could totally see him doing like Max, universe Punisher, because it's very similar, like super bulky. Ugh.
I'm trying to think if Ed's ever done the
Punisher
proper.
I always like to think of artists and then just type in their...
Like, I'm sure he's
Punisher.
drawn him before.
Sure.
I just don't think he's ever done a Punisher
but
run.
Parlov, I love
I
how...
can't think of anything he's done that's not DC related, but that's just me. And
he's done like X-Men and stuff and Hulk.
Yeah.
I'm
not surprised at all that he's done Hulk.
Yeah, his big Marvel thing was doing the Hulk with Jeff Loeb, which introduced the Red Hulk.
Ah.
Yeah. He had previously worked on Amazing X-Men with Jason Aaron. But yeah, Chris, you get into anything while Master Jake looks up Ed McGuinness?
Nope. No. Yes, I did. On a whim, I decided to go out to see Super Troopers 2 since it came out this past weekend, and went to see it with friend of the show and co-host of Laserdicks, Ken.
Yeah.
And found out that he had never seen the first Super Troopers, which made a couple scenes very confusing, because basically in the best way possible, because I didn't think it was stale watching Super Troopers 2, but in the best way possible, it is literally the same movie but in Canada as the first Super Troopers movie. Basically you got through kind of a convoluted setup, a section of Canada right on the border is being turned into a section of Vermont, which is the state that they are in the first movie. So, like, basically, just manifest destiny, I guess. Like I said, it's a little bit more convoluted than that.
We're going north.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, the idea is that they are reinstated as the highway patrol for this section of Canada that is being converted into United States. So to like kind of like ease the transition, they're using this ragtag group of cops. And so there's tensions between the local Mounties who are like on their way out, which would represent the state police from the first movie. There's a drug and gun smuggling ring that they stumble upon, just like in the first movie. And hijinks in drug use. And a whole bunch of other stuff, like follows a lot of the same beats, but in a new, fresh enough way that I was like, okay, that's one of the ways that you can write a sequel. Basically rehash the same plot, but make it worth watching a second movie. Yeah. So I felt that it was fun. I would recommend people seeing it, but don't waste your money on like a full price day. And if you really wanted to, I wouldn't even rush to the theaters to see it, but it is worth seeing. So if you want to wait until it comes out on home video, sure, fine. But don't just put it on the shelf and be like, whatever, it's another dumb movie that's the same plot. It's funny. And it's got Tyler Labine in it, who I love seeing ever since Reaper. If anyone watched Reaper, he's the the sock was his name.
Yeah.
And it's fun seeing him, and he plays a Mountie, so he's doing like a French Canadian accent the entire time, as well as fans of Mad TV will recognize Will Sasso, and then another guy that I recognized, but I could not put my finger on like why I know him, and I guess I neglected to look him up because I still don't know. And then of course the big thing is Rob Lowe plays the like governor, I guess, of the town.
So like the mayor.
Mayor. That's probably more appropriate. Who knows? It's Canada. It could be anything. He could be a magistrate.
I don't know how provinces work. I don't.
Yeah, and it's not even a whole province. But yeah. So he plays the top political official for this locality. So mayor fits. And you know he puts on a French Canadian accent, and uses a man's penis as a punching bag at one point. If that doesn't sell you on the movie, I don't know what does. And also, Wonder Woman is back. Linda Carter.
Cool.
Yeah. She played, or did she? Was she in the first movie?
I honestly don't remember.
She is in this movie.
I don't think I've seen Super Troopers, like the first one, since like high school.
Yeah.
Which isn't like me shitting on Super Troopers. I just haven't seen that movie since high school.
Well, you know, if you go watch Super Troopers 2, it's basically like rewatching the first one.
Cool. Just a bit more Canadian,
and
eh?
yeah. And Jim Gaffigan is back playing the same character.
The Meow Man.
Mm-hmm. References that. That's the scene that I was talking about when I was saying Ken just didn't get the references.
The Meow Man Chronicles starring Richard Gere.
Yeah.
Anybody actually see the Mothman Chronicles starring Richard Gere?
Yes.
Did you guys dig it?
I don't remember.
It's fine. I believe it was called the Mothman Prophecies.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, it was fine.
He could have Chronicles, too.
He could.
Once he makes his prophesize.
He's no Riddick.
Yeah. Yeah, well, sometimes neither is Vin Diesel.
Woo!
Cool. That was lovely.
Yeah.
That was lovely.
Yeah.
So did did McGinnis ever do a Punisher run, Jake?
Not a run, but it looks like he did a variant, it looks like.
Well, yeah.
And then I think he's drawn some other, like, I think there's like variants and just other things. Like he drew the skull. I don't know if it was on the Red Hulk stuff, but this is the first thing that pops up. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a second.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Interesting. With the mask. It looks like that was during I mean, it's on the fucking cover. You can look it up. This is an auditory experience. But the yeah. Well,
yeah.
How about you, Samuel? Did you do anything?
Did I do anything? Let's see. I changed the oil on my car. Woo! Thrilling.
You did it yourself?
I had John's help.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to come off as condescending if I did or anything like that. But
I had John's help.
Yeah. I mean it does make it more of a story than like, oh no, I went to a Jiffy Lube. They did it.
Oh no,
nondescript John, I assume.
Nondescript John, the Nintendo 64 undisputed champion.
Unified title.
He didn't beat me in Perfect Dark. I'm better at him in Perfect Dark. But he's got me beat in Smash and Mario Kart. What fucks me up in who's your go-to character in Super Smash Brothers?
Link. Usually with the black costume.
Yes, the Shadow Link.
Yeah. I guess that would, yeah.
I suck at all of them.
I mean, I didn't say that was any good.
Little Mac?
Oh, yeah, that's right, because he can't jump. You always jump off.
I would jump off, and then I just wait for someone to stupidly fall in front of my super punch.
Right.
Oh. I think I've won like once or twice.
Yeah.
And fucking Blue Sam's mind because he's like, how? Broken clock's right twice a day, Samuel.
Right. So when I played John, like in the bulk of this tournament that John and I went head to head in, I was Mario, and I was just like owning the shit as Mario. I was like, "Fuck you, I'm the best." And the last round where it was just me and John, no items, head to head, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be Captain Falcon. Did not work out.
Careful, Icarus.
I think in OG Super or Smash Brothers, I used to be Captain Falcon a lot.
Because of the speed and power, and he just looked cool.
He just looked cool. That was the main reason.
Yeah.
That was terrible. It was like I was like using it for strategy. It was just terrible.
Originally, I would do Samus a lot too.
Samus is good. Samus is good. My original pick, like as growing up, was Kirby because he could fly.
Yeah, Kirby's not bad.
Yeah, little balloon boy.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. I got treated to Korean barbecue over the weekend. That was cool. And that's really it. I mean, it's not I'm getting close to the end of the semester, so it's just everything work-wise is kind of gearing towards that. And then I've got some fun summer stuff planned, just like because I don't know if I'm doing San Diego at this point because of scheduling, but if I can do it at all. So I haven't really heard back. I've been invited to Image's credit, but yeah. So that's about it. Anything else? Anything else, boys?
We're all going to see Avengers tomorrow, which is exciting.
Yes.
Leading up, granted, by the time this posts, we know everything, but so I'm excited.
Yeah, man. I'm actually kind of.
I remember because at the beginning of the year, I was kind of like, I don't know, there's so many superhero thing. I was such a little fucking ass, and then like. As it closer gets, I'm like, fuck that guy.
I did finally see the second Deadpool 2 trailer.
Oh, I love it.
With Peter.
Oh, at the end?
Yeah.
You're in. Like, the way he says that is just so... And it just cuts to him flying. Yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, looks... That cracked me up so hard. And like I said, the way Ryan Reynolds just... You're in.
Yeah.
His,
even masked and everything.
Yeah, talk about a guy that just gets that character 100%.
Yeah.
He's gotten it since Blade Trinity, when he wasn't even Wade Wilson.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is,
King.
That movie comes out, and then the next week is Han Solo.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah.
like, bing bang,
bing bang boom,
bing bang boom,
wing wang wong.
Yes, fing fang foom.
Oh, going Marvel, tying it back. Well done.
Yeah, no problem.
I guess I think people keep forgetting we get an Aquaman movie this year.
Supposedly they did. What is the festival? There's a
CinemaCon.
Yeah, supposedly I think they played some footage there. I don't know. But
yeah.
Well, I like Jason Momoa and his pecs, so I'm in.
He's
in.
You're in.
We no longer get a New Mutants movie this year.
No, it
was supposed to come out like last week or something like that.
It was supposed to come out in April. Yeah,
damn.
It was supposed to come out this
I didn't
month.
realize it was that delayed.
It's from what I've heard. Because I've got an in.
Yes,
you're
in.
Yeah, you're in.
Yeah,
I wrote. Yeah,
but yeah, from what I've heard, it's basically done. But Fox was like, "Hold on, guys, we got to go. All of us got to go in on this Freddie Mercury biopic that we've decided to do. Let's put aside everything else."
Well, X-Men Dark Phoenix got pushed back too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it wasn't just New Mutants.
Though they're completely reshooting it was one of the stories I wrote for CBR. I was all about they're reshooting the entire like-ending, and they're adding like a character that wasn't in the original version.
In Dark Phoenix?
In New Mutants.
Oh, yeah, I was. Yeah, they also like saw the positive response that they got from the one trailer for New Mutants. It looking a lot more of a horror movie than it actually was.
Yeah.
And so they were like, writer, director, team, or person, I don't even know who it was. Here's some more money. Go ahead and make it more of a horror movie. And the guy, the team or the guy was like, oh, great, because that's actually what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then we kind of like vanillaed it for you. So
they're going full tilt boogie on the horror.
Yeah. So that's fine. Since they're gonna go and do more of their original vision, I have high hopes for it. It's not like a Suicide Squad, last minute reshoots kind of situation.
Yeah. Well, they didn't. I don't think they pushed that back either.
Yeah.
They were just like, fuck it.
Yeah. They were like, make it work.
Or like Justice League, where they were like, oh no, like Joss Whedon's going to reshoot like 30% of this film at least, and we're still going to maintain our release date.
Yeah.
You know what else apparently got heavily reshot and is maintaining its release date?
What?
Han Solo.
Oh.
So, but I'm actually stoked for Han Solo.
I mean,
everything I see from it looks fun.
Yeah.
Like super fun.
Rogue One had a whole bunch of reshoots, and it still ended up being a fine movie.
Yeah,
so.
it's not. There is.
Reshoots are okay.
Yeah, I was about to say there's no unwatchable Star Wars movies, and then I remember
Episode 2,
1, 2,
Clone Wars.
Most of a significant portion of 3. 3's like people are like 3's actually good. I'm like 3's just not as bad.
Yeah. Three is the inverse of the law of diminishing returns.
Yeah,
but it's not a good movie.
Yeah, it's like you've recalibrated your expectations for 2 movies, and now here's something that's not quite as bad.
What was the you subverted your expectations? Was that was Jake's like phrase du jour for?
Oh,
was
when
it Last Jedi?
Well, Last Jedi came
Yeah.
out, and everyone used that in every review.
So I hear it every once in a while, like, and every time, like, just that phrase, subvert your expectations, and I'm like, God damn it, you've ruined that phrase for me, Jake.
I didn't.
And
the
basically,
people who used it a gazillion times did.
But here's the thing, I never heard any of those people. I only ever heard you.
Well, it's my fault that you hear it because it's their fault that they said it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, by the transitive property of fault, it's not your fault.
Yeah. Don't kill the messenger, Chris. Jesus.
Yeah. Just shoot him in the knees.
Ooh, there you go. Deliver a message again.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you might as well just kill them then.
Yeah.
Then their trade's done.
They could.
That's horrible.
They could train carrier pigeons.
I'm a horrible person.
That's true.
As
thanks.
the kids say, where's the lie?
Yeah. I would. What was that game? Guess Who? Where like if people said something, you'd have to flip them down.
Guess
Yeah,
who?
that was Guess Who.
Yeah. There's no lies in that at all, is there? Huh. I don't know where I was going with that.
I don't either. You could lie in that game.
Yeah, that's
Can you?
That's a huge part of it.
No, you don't.
I mean,
you
no,
can't.
you're not. Well, it's against the rules, but that doesn't stop you from being able to do it.
Well,
That's just being a shitty player.
see, I'm a.
Oh yeah, that's true. I'm
Yeah.
thinking of. I don't know what I'm thinking of.
But you know what I'm thinking of?
Sorry.
Miles Gunter
Mm-hmm.
for coming on and talking
Yes.
about Dark Fang and all
Yes.
things like cinema. And I promised him I'd watch The Ritual on Netflix.
Yeah, after hearing him talk about it, I kind of wanted to
Yeah.
check it out too. I mean, it already was on my should I? And now, like, hearing him like gush about it, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
Next time, I'm like, the hell am I gonna watch? Guess it's gonna be The Ritual.
Ritual it is. I still haven't finished my rewatch of Chef's Table yet.
It's all right. I still haven't finished G Gundam,
Yeah.
It's okay. I haven't finished Lost in Space.
and you haven't even started Star Trek, have you? Boom, bringing it back
no.
for 200.
I did start Star Trek,
Oh shit!
but it's never going to be finished.
Wait. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Like a long time ago.
yeah, you never saw The Trouble with Tribbles.
No. Oh yeah, that was a thing.
And you know what? There's a Tribble right there in front of you, right next to Superman.
I know.
He used to have one in his pocket.
Yep.
The first awesome con ever.
Sam
Yeah.
was like, "Can you hold this?" And I was like, "Why the fuck?"
You're
Some
in.
nerd shit.
You're in.
As you put them in your pocket. But yeah, thanks again to Miles for coming on. Again, that book is out. Dark Fang is out Wednesday, May 9th. And, thanks for listening to us. We've had a really good run lately with numbers and everything, and people want to come on the show, and it's wild to me. And people, whenever I say that, like on like Facebook or something, people are like, "Oh, Sam's just being humble again." It's like, no. Have you actually listened to this program for like 200 times apparently?
Yeah.
But people seem to dig it, so thanks. And we'll catch you on the flip. This has been another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
Now we have no listeners.
Yeah.
I'm Chris.
I'm a tribble.
Ha!
Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Bana.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual Catching Up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.